The reason that you're not making millions of dollars in OFM is not because you're not working hard enough. It's because you're working hard on the wrong things. Organic social is without a doubt the best way to scale revenue for OnlyFans models. And every second you spend learning low-leverage bullshit like Snapchat to dating app funnels is a waste of time. Megastars like Camila Araujo and Sophie Rain are pulling down millions of dollars a month on OF alone, purely through organic social. And that's not even considering the other ways they monetize. But organic social is a very broad concept. There are tons of posting formats, dozens of major platforms, and hundreds of micro skills that you need to learn in order to be successful. Social media is the most powerful advertising medium in human history, and it can be overwhelming if you're starting from zero, but the rewards are well worth the effort. In this series, I'm breaking down everything I know about organic social for OFM into bite-sized chunks that you can use to start building models that make 6 and 7 figures a month. Today, we're talking about the most important format you need to understand for maximum growth: short-form video. If you're wondering who I am and why you should listen to what I have to say, my name is Francis. I'm the founder of Milky Media, an OnlyFans management agency and consultancy that has produced millions of dollars in revenue, millions of followers, and over 1 billion aggregate impressions for our clients. Just a quick heads up before we get into the good stuff. While I do spend a lot of resources on editing and this video does have helpful visual elements, I make my content for business people who are constantly on the move, so you're not missing too much if you just put me in your headphones at the gym or in the car and listen to this like a podcast. At this point, I think everyone understands how powerful short-form video is. Despite being the newest addition to the social media content stack, it's now what most people think of when you say social media. TikTok launched in 2016, and it took the entire content ecosystem completely by storm. And once it picked up steam, every single major media platform realized very quickly that if they didn't come up with their own short-form video format, they were going to get left in the dust. So it's no surprise that YouTube Shorts have over 30 trillion views in the last year, and Instagram Reels has around 73 trillion with a T views in the same time frame. Short-form content represents 90% of video traffic on major social media platforms, which is exactly why it's the first thing that I'm covering in this series, and it's where an overwhelming majority of your time, your effort, and your resources should be spent. In this video, I'm going to break down the 2 most important things you need to get started: strategy, how to approach short-form content creation and avoid the most common mistakes that other OnlyFans management agencies make, and anatomy, the structure of an individual piece of content, the psychological levers that you can pull to be an effective short-form marketer, and what makes a piece of content actually good or bad. We'll start with strategy. I outlined the fundamental tactics you need to win hard at organic social in the intro to this series, so if you haven't already, be sure to watch that video after this one. I'll link it on screen and in the description. Just in case, I'm going to quickly recap those tactics here before we move on. This is the basic formula for success with short-form content. 1. Hit minimum viable quality, or MVQ. All of your content needs to hit a 7 out of 10. I'm going to explain what that actually means in anatomy, but for now, just take it at face value. Your content needs to be at a certain minimum quality. 2. Reach optimal platform volume. To start, you're going to need to post at least one piece of 7 out of 10 short-form content every single day. Step 3. Repeat what works. When a piece of content gets a ton of views and engagement, analyze it and milk it dry. Put out tons of variations on that piece until it stops working. Step 4. Double, triple, and quadruple your volume. Every time you reach the point where you hit that optimal platform volume at that 7 out of 10 quality threshold, double it. Start with 1 reel a day, then 2, then 3, and just keep pushing until you hit your limit, and then build the systems you need to increase volume while maintaining quality. Now that you have those basic tactics, we can move on to strategy. Strategy for socials consists of 3 core elements: planning, metrics, and goals. We're going to start from the end, goals, and work our way backwards. Goals. Strategy should always start with our desired outcome, because you can't make a plan if you don't have a goal. Lucky for us, our desired outcome is super obvious: revenue growth. We are doing this to maximize the amount of money that an individual model makes on OF. So with every step that we take, we should ask, is this going to grow revenue? And if so, how and on what timeline? Timeline is the tricky part of the goal equation. In most cases, you're going to get feedback on whether something on socials works or not very quickly. If a piece of content is going to go viral, it's going to happen within 1 to 7 days after posting 99% of the time. Since we had the simple goal of revenue growth guiding our decisions, next we had to figure out what elements of our strategy contribute to that goal and how to track progress over time. That brings us to metrics. You don't just post reels and start printing money right away. There are steps in between. And if you don't track them, you're just throwing darts blindfolded and hoping that you hit bullseye. There are 3 basic metrics for short-form content that you're going to want to track, and each one contributes to our goal in a different way. The first metric is reach. This is the number of people who see a given piece of content, and it's typically measured by unique impressions. Reach is the most obvious metric because it's what everybody sees first, the number of views on a piece of content. But contrary to popular belief, it's actually not the most important. Don't get me wrong. A big part of your content strategy should absolutely be oriented around reaching as many new eyes as possible to go viral. The more people see your model, the more potential customers you reach long term. But the second metric is arguably even more important, and we'll get to that in a moment. The most effective way to measure reach at any scale is a metric that Milky calls view to follower ratio, or VTFR. The formula we use to measure success on this metric is very simple. You simply divide the number of views a piece of content got by the number of followers the model has, and grade them based on this scale. To simplify the math, let's just say your model has 100,000 followers. Anything with under 20,000 views, 20% or lower VTFR, is a flop. Figure out why, and don't repeat it unless it's tactical content that's designed to reach a very specific, very narrow audience, which normally isn't going to apply to OF. For instance, if you have trans or super niche fetish creators. Anything with over 30,000 views, 30% plus VTFR, is going to be a C, a passing grade. In the beginning, this is where most of your content is going to sit. Anything over 50,000 views, 50% VTFR, is a B. If you can consistently hit this, you're doing really well. Anything with 100K to 300K views, 100% to 300% BTFR is an A-. Once you get good, you'll probably achieve a handful of these a week, and they'll be your primary driver of follower growth. Last, anything with 1 million or more views, 1,000% plus VTFR, is going to be an A++. These are your viral hits, the videos that escape containment and drive the greatest growth. If you can consistently hit one of these a week, you are an elite marketer and you're going to grow explosively. When you find a post or a piece of content that does this, make tons of variations and iterations of it and milk it until your audience begs you to stop posting it. All of that said, reach is not your explicit goal. Remember, the goal is revenue. Instead, think of reach as a side effect or a signal that you're doing things right. In reality, reach is just a means to the end of metric 2. Conversion. Conversion is actually 2 separate metrics, both equally important. There's the obvious one that we all know, converting your social media audience into paid OnlyFans subscribers. But there's also the less obvious one, converting non-followers into followers, which is a form of sales. A majority of people who end up subscribing to your model's OnlyFans are not people who saw a random reel and then decided to dump their wallets into her bank account. The average consumer needs to be exposed to an advertisement between 10 and 20 times before it actually influences their purchasing behavior. So understanding how your audience moves through your sales funnel, in marketing this is called the customer journey, is incredibly important. Social media is not a direct I see, I pay medium. You need to constantly bombard your audience with your product. In this case, the product is the model, day in and day out, in order to achieve the exposure saturation required to convince them to become paying customers. Conversion from non-follower to follower is thankfully very easy to track through the platform's in-app analytics dashboard. Typically, you can see exactly how many followers a given post is responsible for. Conversion from follower to subscriber is less easy to track. OnlyFans tracking links are notoriously buggy, and they only track a fraction of the actual clicks they get. Plus, you have no individual level customer data. As far as I know, there's only one tool on the market that accurately tracks conversions and provides detailed and robust data on your best customers, and that is Harpoon. Harpoon is an OnlyFans tool that identifies your model's most engaged social media followers and converts them into whales, paying subscribers who spend tens of thousands of dollars on their OnlyFans pages. If you don't intuitively understand the value of direct marketing campaigns to whales, check out some of the results that we've delivered for our customers. In some cases, Harpoon has increased revenue by as much as $50,000 per month for a single model. To learn more, check out the link in the description or visit ofmharpoon.com to apply. Harpoon has completely de-risked their product for new customers. So if you don't make double your subscription price back within your first month, you get a full refund, no questions asked. Back to the video. The last metric we'll discuss is engagement. Engagement is best thought of as a proxy measurement for your model's relevance and how tuned in her core audience is. Right now, there are 4 engagement metrics. 3 that are visible to everyone, likes, comments, and shares, and 1 that is only visible to you, average watch time. They all matter in different ways, so I'm going to break them down from most to least important. Please keep in mind, Everything that I'm about to say applies to the short form algorithms at the time this video was recorded, which is July 18th, 2025, and things might change in the future. I'm going to explain how to leverage each of these engagement metrics in the event that social media algorithms start favoring different metrics than they do today, which is very likely. The most important right now by far is the hidden metric, average watch time. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's a measure of how long the average viewer spent watching a given video. Always keep this in mind. The goal of every social media platform is to keep users on it as long as possible, so they do everything in their power to push content that people want to keep watching. We know that modern attention spans are absolutely cooked, which means the single best thing that you can do to level up on socials is master the art of quickly grabbing and holding audience attention. The average initial watch time of Instagram Reels is only 3 seconds, so if you can keep an average viewer on your reel for 10 seconds or more, that reel is going to reach a wide audience, probably 75 to 200% BTFR, and it's more likely to convert viewers into followers. At 20 seconds plus, you are getting millions of views and a massive burst of followers guaranteed. There are so many factors that go into average watch time, and I'm going to get into specifics on how to consistently capture and hold audience attention in the anatomy section later in the video. For now, just understand that your first major area of focus should be getting this metric up. The next most important is shares. How many people sent your content to someone else? This used to be super important and a very large determinant of reach, but recent algorithm changes gave average watch time a substantially heavier weight. There are a few ways to game shares, and they all have to do with calls to action, or CTAs. If you're familiar with anything in marketing, you're familiar with this term. Essentially, you're either directly or indirectly asking your audience to share the content and hoping that they respond to your ask. A direct ask would be something like, share this with someone who loves goth girls. An indirect ask might be something like creating a highly relatable or polarizing statement that naturally makes people think of someone specific. For example, posting a reel titled, "Every guy has dated this girl at least once," subtly prompts the viewer to share it with a friend who has actually dated whatever that type of person is. Another indirect approach is leveraging humor or niche references. When someone sees content that perfectly captures an inside joke or a subculture that they're part of, they're far more likely to send it to people they know who will get it. After shares is comments. Comments, as far as I can tell, have almost no weight in the current reach algorithm. I have had posts with a near 1-to-1 ratio of comments to views on very controversial topics, and posts with 1 to 10,000 ratio of comment to views where almost nobody commented, but the post got millions of views. However, comments still matter because it's the best way for your model to engage with fans publicly, which is a very powerful tool for creating and reinforcing parasocial relationships. Your most dedicated fans are going to comment on almost every single post, and when your model responds to those fans, even if it's low effort, like a heart emoji or something, that fan is going to feel seen, heard, and get one step closer to actually spending money. This creates a sort of community around your model. If you look at models like Camila Araujo, irrespective of the content she posts, there are typically about half and half haters and mega fans, and they're all interacting with each other in the comments section, which creates a sense of living, thriving community around the creator. It's difficult to measure the impact of community in terms of effort to dollars. It's not very tangible, but it does seem to have a serious long-term impact on brand quality and fan and customer retention. Not something that you need to aggressively prioritize, but it's worth keeping in mind. The least important is likes, which barely matter at all anymore. Not sure why. Likes are basically a vanity metric at this point, and same thing with comments. As far as I can tell, they don't matter for reach, and they have no tangible relationship with conversion that I've been able to measure. If you've been able to identify a link between likes and post performance or likes and conversions, let me know in the comments for sure. I'm totally fine with being wrong, but it's just been my experience that they don't matter at all. In the event that likes do end up mattering again in the future, you game them the same way that you do with shares, with a direct call to action, or just creating content that people find highly agreeable and are likely to interact with. It's very important to note, you do not have to optimize for all of these metrics in every single piece of content that you put out. For instance, if there's a super popular trending audio going around, it's very likely that you're going to get a lot of reach without much engagement or conversion. Similarly, some types of content you put out should focus on and directly address your existing fan base. Those videos might not get much reach, but they will be great for conversion and engagement since they reinforce the connection that your model has with their audience. It's actually very rare that you'll release a piece of content that hits all three of those core metrics, and while it's an admirable goal, it's also very difficult to do consistently, so don't worry about it too much. If you're hitting 2 out of 3, you're doing great. Oh, and if you're unsure how to find and track these metrics, Every major social platform provides an insights or analytics dashboard for individual posts that you can easily check. I'm not going to do a detailed guide in this video because we're all adults and we can Google, but I might do one in the future. Additionally, most scheduling tools, which I'm going to cover in a future video about organic social software that we use, comes with built-in analytics dashboards that make tracking these metrics over time straightforward. All of that was a lot of information to digest, so before we get into the third part of strategy, plan, please pause the video and drop a comment if you have any questions. While we are a consultancy, Milky has temporarily suspended consulting services to work on a massive film project for one of our clients, but I still want to help out where I can, and if you ask questions in the comments, I will answer them. If they're interesting, I might even make a whole video about them. Now we move on to plan. Before you do anything we just talked about, you need a plan. Organic social is not a one-size-fits-all solution, and every model has unique strengths, weaknesses, and preferences that you need to take into account. The three things every OnlyFans social plan needs to consider are 1. Brand roadmap and content strategy, 2. Platform choices, and 3. Boundaries and challenges. Brand roadmap and content strategy are similar, so I'm lumping them together because they're kind of inseparable. You can't have one without the other. Branding is an incredibly complex topic, and it's what separates the good from the best. I will make future videos about branding, but for now, I'm just going to give you a solid base of knowledge that you can use to build a functional brand for your creators on top of. The best place to start is with a question. What type of brand do you want to build for your model? While we do have an incredible advantage over every single other social media creator on the planet, the fact that men are going to follow our models for no reason other than their appearance, good looks is still not a brand, and it will never take you all the way to the top. The answer goes far beyond picking a niche like big boobs or e-girl. That's just an appearance-based category or niche, and categories are crowded. Not only are you competing with other OnlyFans creators, you're competing with every girl on the internet who's ever posted a selfie in a bikini. Yes, we are selling intimacy, but your model's entire identity cannot just be based on her looks. Brand is about differentiating your creator, making her a unique, one-of-one personality instead of just another OF creator. What unique hobbies or interests does your creator have? How can she entertain the audience beyond just being hot on camera? How can you leverage her personality to appeal to a specific group or groups of people? A perfect illustration of an OF creator with an expertly crafted and fully realized brand without good looks is Isla Moon. In the context of our industry, she's a 5 on a good day. But despite that, she has built a multi-million-dollar OF business around herself. She has spent her whole career on camera totally capturing a blue-collar audience that loves the outdoors, specifically fishing, diving, and boating. And as a result, she's built an incredibly strong positive association with that demographic who can't seem to get enough of her. I go more in depth on OF branding in my video, Stop Finding OnlyFans Niches, Start Building OnlyFans Brands. I'm going to link it on screen in the description. But to quickly recap that video, most agencies stay stuck competing inside of a niche where creators are interchangeable and easily replaced. The top 0.01% build brands that create functional monopolies through instant recognizability, which is the distinct audio-visual aesthetic that you use to distinguish your creator from the crowd, strong emotional associations, considering the types of emotions you want people to feel when they view your content, and avatar, understanding your target market and their psychology. When you stop thinking like a marketer chasing trends and start thinking like a monopolist crafting identity, you start to unlock the secret to building million-dollar creators. So spend some time thinking about what makes your model different and create a brand roadmap. The aesthetic choices, the personality, the target audience, and genre or genres of content you're going to produce, and then lean into it as hard as you possibly can. Once you outline your brand, your content strategy is going to be directly informed by that brand roadmap. The types of content you create will correspond to your creator's strengths and preferences. Milky primarily specializes in comedy content for our creators, but we have many tools in our kit: ASMR, education, self-help, cooking videos, etc. Every genre of content has its own sort of language, different visual and audio cues, pacing, and so on, that take time to really learn and recreate at scale. I would strongly recommend keeping it simple to start. No more than 2 types of original content, and I'm not counting trends and thirst traps as genres here, that you rotate through on a regular cadence so that you can deeply understand the language and skills associated with them. Milky uses a ratio-based framework shared by the top creators in the business. I think it's originally Gary V's, but feel free to use it for yourself. And it's 20-70-10. 20% of your content should be trend-based content. Think of this as other creators doing the work for you. They have already proved that this type of content can go viral. You just need to put your own spin on it. Here's an example of a few variations of a recent viral trend, the Dochi anxiety trend, which many creators copied but made their own. 70% of your focus should be on brand-based content. These are concepts that you have proven internally reinforce the brand identity that you create for your model. This is how you establish your creator as unique and differentiate her from the OF girly identity. A good example of this is the creator Nicole Skirts, whose content strategy is almost exclusively oriented around doing gymnastics in short skirts. She found something people like to watch, a cute petite girl doing backflips and revealing clothes, and she dominates that niche because she created it. The last 10% of your effort should be on experimental content. You'll have no idea if this content is going to work out or not, but it is good to consistently try new things. Think of it as creative research and development. This is both how you discover new winning content verticals for your creator and how you refine your instincts as a creative. Over time, as you understand the principles, your experiments are going to get better and better. And every now and then, you'll get rewarded with something totally original, or the best case scenario, creating a trend. So if you're making 10 posts a week, 7 should be on-brand content, 2 should be fresh takes on super hot trends, and 1 should be something totally experimental that might get you new audience exposure or might get you no exposure at all. Now we have platform choices. For short form, this is pretty simple since you only have 3 main platforms to choose from: Instagram Reels, TikTok, and YouTube. While there are other platforms that allow short form content, those are the 3 that are currently designed to support it. Despite all serving the same length of content, all 3 platforms have very different algorithms that favor very different types of content. When you're getting started, the best approach is to optimize content for just one platform and then post it on the others, as opposed to spreading yourself thin, trying to optimize for all 3. Milky prioritizes Instagram Reels. I'm going to explain why in a moment. And then we cross-post content we make for Reels to the other 2 platforms. Over time, as you understand each platform better, you can come up with a unique strategy for each. But starting there is a recipe for failing at all 3. There are tons of nuances to each platform. Way too many to go into detail without derailing this video. But the most basic rundown is as follows. Right now, TikTok seems to prioritize low-quality, low-effort content. Brain rot, as the kids are calling it. This generally looks like thirst trap dances, trending audio, etc. There's also live shopping, but that doesn't really apply to OnlyFans, so I'm not going to get into it right now. Instagram Reels seems to prioritize slightly higher effort content with a little bit more personality, a cohesive narrative structure, and a consistent brand identity. You'll still get traction on thirst traps and trending audio, but you can't build a page entirely around them anymore. I think this used to be common practice maybe during COVID, where you really could build an entire brand just off of trending audio and thirst traps and B-roll with text over it. That's not the case anymore. Instagram is way more focused on serving higher quality content, so just be sure to keep that in mind. YouTube Shorts is just weird. They seem to really like pushing the deep-fried, like Sigma grindset movie clip edits and bits from podcasts as opposed to quality original content. This channel's shorts outperform our long-form videos by a factor of 10 on average views, even though they're just shitty AI-generated clips that I put 0 effort into. So while Shorts is incredibly powerful for other applications, in my opinion, Shorts as it exists today is not worth creating original content for OnlyFans creators at all. In my experience, and again with the caveat that the social media landscape is constantly shifting and this might change in the future, right now I believe Instagram Reels is where a majority of your focus should be spent. There are a few reasons for this. Instagram Reels has the largest user base. None of the legal uncertainty of TikTok, which was dangerously close to getting banned in the US earlier this year. And unlike TikTok, you can link directly from your model's OF from her page bio. It's impossible to understate the value here. Even if you have a huge TikTok with millions and millions of followers, that one additional click to your model's Instagram that stands between the fan and the OF link is a colossal barrier that results in tons of drop-off in conversions. If you're using TikTok to push Instagram, why not just focus on the platform that you're already driving traffic to? Again, this is in my experience. TikTok also has way more aggressive rules enforcement than IG, especially for certain types of creators. I have found that both young-looking models and models with large breasts are exceptionally prone to bans, suspensions, and content violations, even if they're not posting any explicitly sexual content. And unlike Instagram, which has a robust, if annoying, appeals process, if you get an account banned on TikTok, you are not getting it back, period. That's not to say TikTok has no value. If your model already has a huge TikTok following and you're doing well there, keep it up. But spend most of your time understanding the nuances of Instagram, because based on the best available data and resources they have access to, Meta is going to continue to eat up more and more market share, and long term, that's just where I would place my bets. Milky's approach is pretty simple, and what I would recommend to everyone watching. We make content optimized for the Instagram algorithm, and then we cross-post it to every other platform using a social media scheduler. That way, even though we aren't creating content specifically for TikTok or YouTube Shorts, we still get exposure and incidental growth on those platforms with zero additional effort. As your team grows, you can hire specialists for each platform and create content that's optimized for each. But honestly, for the time being, you can get so much juice out of Instagram Reels that your time is probably best spent there instead of testing on other platforms. Now we move on to boundaries and challenges. If content creation is a game, boundaries are the rules that you have to play by. The factors that you should always keep in mind when planning out content are time, user attention span, and lack of continuity. The first and most obvious limitation is time, and it's where most of the challenges of short-form content come from. While the maximum length of short-form content has been slowly creeping up on most platforms, data indicates that content between 20 and 45 seconds long performs the best by far. This means that short-form content has to be ruthlessly efficient. You cannot waste a second of space in any of your videos. Think of it like fast food. McDonald's didn't become the biggest restaurant chain in the world because it's an extravagant, wonderful dining experience. It's because they serve obscenely addictive food in 30 seconds flat that you can eat while you're driving 90 miles per hour through a school zone. Short-form content works the same way. People aren't on Reels or TikTok looking for a slow burn story or a nuanced, layered experience. They are in dopamine drive-through mode. They want the quickest hint of entertainment, curiosity, or emotion that they can possibly get. And the moment that you make them wait or think too hard, kind of like when you get to the Taco Bell and there's a line around the block, they scroll to the next drive-through in the hopes for another quick hit, and you lose a customer. For content creators with high information density, for instance, content like this, that's terrible news. Short-form media is not where my target audience are. Just imagine if I had to cram all of the information in this video in a 60-second reel. It would be impossible. However, for OnlyFans promotion, this is incredible news. Our target audience, Gooners, are impulsive spenders with giga-fried dopaminergic reward pathways, which makes them incredibly susceptible to this type of content. You don't have to serve an elaborate 8-course meal. Your customer's favorite food is garbage from a dumpster, served fast and hot. This brings us to the second constraint: attention spans. Our target audience have goldfish attention spans. This means that you have to learn and deploy a lot of tricks in order to capture and hold them. A majority of the anatomy section will be about how to exploit the psychology of the viewer to do precisely that. But there are some basic rules of the road. Remember what I said back in average watch time? The average initial watch time of Instagram Reels is only 3 seconds. So if you can keep an average viewer on your reel for 10 seconds or more, that reel is going to reach a wide audience. That's average watch time, which means that over half of all reels don't even get 3 seconds. The framework that Milky uses, I definitely stole this from someone, but I honestly don't remember who or I would credit them, is as follows. You have 1 second to convince someone to watch your content for 3 seconds, 3 seconds to convince them to watch for 5 seconds, 5 seconds to convince them to watch for 10 seconds, and 10 seconds to get them watch for 15 seconds, and so on and so forth. Attention is so ludicrously valuable that every second past 10 seconds average watch time can represent hundreds of thousands or even millions of additional views, which in turn can represent hundreds of new subscribers. Fundamentally, content creation is constantly selling the viewer on the idea that they should just keep watching. You are fighting tooth and nail for attention, which eventually, hopefully, turns into dollars. Last is lack of continuity. This is a more abstract and unintuitive concept, and it's honestly the one that I had the hardest time wrapping my head around when I got started with short-form content creation, because I'm not a short-form content consumer. It has to do with how short-form platforms serve content and how users consume it. On YouTube, you have the time to introduce yourself in every video. You can say your name, establish some credibility, and talk about what you're going to talk about. Because on YouTube, people are open to that kind of experience, especially for B2B content like this. You still need good packaging, and you still have to get into the meat of the video and start providing value quickly, which I hope I do, but it's more like 30 seconds to hook the viewer instead of 1 or 2. You don't have that luxury with short form, because if every reel starts with, "Hi, my name is X and I do Y," you're gonna lose people right away. Why should they care who you are? You didn't entertain them within the first second of the video, so now they're gonna scroll to watch racist memes and car crashes. You also can't rely on viewers having prior knowledge of your model. On my largest model's account, 90% of our views come from non-followers, meaning that in many cases, they've never seen her before and know nothing about her. Forget episodic content. Forget intros. Every single piece of content must stand alone and still communicate your creator's entire brand essence. The easiest way to work within this constraint is to get dialed in on identity. You should establish a consistent visual style, tone, and value.
humor, sensuality, luxury, etc., so that even a single video communicates the bigger brand. This goes back to that idea of instant recognizability. Lean heavily on visual motifs like colors, locations, and outfits, catchphrases, trending audio, or personality traits that become instantly recognizable. Repeat those core brand cues until you and the model are sick of them, and then keep going. You might think that your audience gets tired of seeing the same things or hearing the same things or the same concepts over and over and over, but the reality is most of your viewers haven't even seen your model once. Remember, if you're playing the game correctly, about 90% of your viewers are going to be first-time exposures. A perfect example of this is an IG creator named Sid Wingold. Not an OF creator, by the way. She remakes the same reel almost every single day with very slight variations. She'll have different music or outfits, but in every other way, totally identical. And she gets 10 to 50 million net new impressions every week, and is one of the fastest growing non-OnlyFans accounts I have ever seen. None of her reels require any prior knowledge to understand. They're just funny, kind of quirky, and immediately comprehensible to a wide audience without any prior knowledge. That's not to say you can't incorporate some narrative. Narratives and stories are still important, but they have to be self-contained in a single piece of content, and they have to be something that a retard mouth breather can understand and connect with immediately. Camila Araujo does a great job of this with her podcast clips, which have kind of a reality TV style vibe. She is my go-to when I want to understand how that crowd thinks. One last honorable mention for constraints, which inevitably as OFMs we are going to run into, is platform terms of service. Do your best not to build a brand based entirely around sex and sex appeal. You want to offer some nominal value to the people consuming your model's content. That value in most cases is going to be pure entertainment, but it could also be a feeling of connectedness, it could be controversy or rage bait. These are all things that you should consider over, or at least in addition to, twerking and text over B-roll. Congratulations, you now know all of the basics you need to craft a winning strategy for short-form content on OF. Always keep in mind these three things: your goal, to make as much money as possible; your metrics, how to monitor progress towards your goal to make the appropriate adjustments; and your plan, your creator's brand and the visual style, content, platforms, and limitations of the platforms that you're going to use to execute on that brand. Now, we can talk about the process of creating the content. In this section, I'm going to explain the anatomy of short-form content. In other words, what each piece of content should contain to increase the chances that it succeeds. Because short-form content is so compact, most OnlyFans creators think of each piece of content like one solid chunk of material, one contiguous thing. In order to become effective at organic social media marketing, you have to recognize that there are actually distinct building blocks that every piece of content is composed of, even if the creator doesn't realize that they're using them. I wrote and rewrote this entire section 4 times because something just kept feeling off. And I think the reality of content is that the landscape is so broad, it's impossible to outline a universal formula for success. The structure of educational content is fundamentally different than the structure of a thirst trap, which is different than the structure of comedy content, and so on. So I kept having to add a bunch of notes and caveats to each section, and it was very messy and confusing, so I simplified it quite a bit. On a spectrum between pure entertainment and pure education, the 5-stage framework I'm about to give you is slanted far towards entertainment, because that's what 99% of OFMs are gonna want to specialize in for best results. Note, this is just a framework. I'm not trying to say that there's only one correct way to do things. Lots of content gurus will claim to have a viral blueprint, but the truth is that over time, the creators and agencies who understand the individual components and fundamentals of content and then can improvise and manipulate them to create innovative content instead of just blindly adhering to a blueprint that somebody else created, those are the ones who get rewarded most heavily over time and the ones who end up coming out on top. So we'll start with the most important part of every piece of content, the hook. A friendly reminder: you only have a second or two to stop someone from scrolling and convince them your content is worth their time to watch. And a good hook is designed to do exactly that. The best hooks typically do one of 4 things. I created examples of each. First is open curiosity loops. Essentially, you're creating tension by giving the viewer a sense that you're sharing something they don't know.
This is the biggest secret nobody knows about shitting your pants.
Second, make bold claims that surprise the viewer.
This completely changed the way I shit my pants.
Third, start with conflict or tension.
My wife just left with the kids because I kept shitting my pants.
And fourth, use something visually shocking or unusual that immediately catches the viewer's attention. This is called a pattern interrupt.
Yeah, I shit my pants. What the fuck are you gonna do about it, bitch?
If you fail to create good hooks, the rest of your content simply doesn't matter. Learning and mastering hooks is where 80% of your effort should be spent in the beginning, followed closely by the premise. Right after the hook, you need to immediately establish the premise. What value are you delivering? This is where you set expectations. Are you telling a joke? Are you selling a product? Are you telling a story? You've got their attention. Now, what are you going to do with it? Sometimes the hook will actually contain the premise. Here's an example of what that looks like.
The Porsche engineers knew exactly what their objective was, to make the new...
Whatever it is, the premise needs to be crystal clear and delivered fast. Typically, simply adding text to the video is the easiest way to accomplish this. This is what keeps the viewer engaged in that 3 to 5 second range. You hooked them, now you have to keep them on the hook and start reeling them in. You're leaving a trail of breadcrumbs with the promise of something delicious at the end. If my hook is, "This is the biggest secret nobody knows about shitting your pants," my premise might be something like, "This Harvard study shows that shitting your pants somehow makes you live longer. Here's why." Here, I establish the premise that shitting your pants makes you live longer. Then invite additional curiosity by offering an explanation of how shitting your pants makes you live longer. Next is the payload, the meat, the actual content. This is where you deliver on the premise. As with everything else about short form, you need to deliver value fast. No fluff, no filler, pure concentrated entertainment. Note that despite being an educational content creator myself, it is very, very rare that you're going to have a model who people are genuinely coming to for expert knowledge. The reality is that due to the constraints of the platform we talked about earlier, most of your audience are not consuming short form content for educational purposes. So your time is best spent learning how to entertain. Also note, not all videos are going to have a payload or meat. Simple videos with an obvious linear premise, like trending audios, are sometimes going to skip this step altogether, opting to cut down to just 3 parts: a hook with an embedded premise, along with the next step, which is the payoff. Every great short has a satisfying conclusion, the payoff. This is where you deliver on your promise from the beginning. The transformation is complete, the story is resolved, you say the punchline to the joke, etc. Make it memorable. Use a callback to your hook. Reveal the unexpected twist. Give them that aha moment that makes them want to watch it again or share it with their friends. Create as strong of an emotional response as you possibly can, even if it's negative, because at least they'll remember it. Here's the payoff for the reel that I use as an example of premise.
The Porsche engineers knew exactly what their objective was, to make the new...
The payoff was, in this case, getting to see the soles of the blonde girl's feet. In many cases, you will be providing a similar sort of payoff. If you had a hook that opened a curiosity loop, this is where you'll close it or create a cliffhanger that entices the viewer to follow for more. Typically, for short form, that's it. But if a piece of content doesn't end on the payoff, that's because it has a call to action. Call to action, CTA, is a request the creator is making of the viewer. We touched on this earlier, I'm just going to review it really quick. This is typically an ask to comment or share or follow, etc. People are much more likely to comply with your CTA if you present it in a unique or fun or creative way. Don't use the basic, like, follow me for more X formula. Get inventive. Give them a reason to perform the call to action that benefits them, not you. The best calls to action promise direct engagement with the model, create FOMO, or promise specific value. Your CTA should always have a specific goal in mind. If you want people to fight each other in the comments, make a controversial video and ask for viewer opinions in the comments. If you want people to share, say, share this or you're gay or something like that. If you do use a call to action, get inventive, make it memorable, make it fun. A CTA could even be embedded in a joke. For example, this.
Hi, my name's Ivy, and today I'm going to be showing you how to swim. Just kidding, I don't know anything about swimming, but what I do know is that for $3.99, you can see my...
Note here that the call to action is implied. For $2.99, you can see my... It's not so subtly informing the viewer that she has an OF and informing them of the price. It's not an explicit ask, but it's still a call to action encouraging the viewer to subscribe. For this video, my call to action is that if you pause this right now and subscribe to my channel, I will call you daddy, pull down my pants, and fully spread my butthole on camera.
Thank you, Daddy. You're so good to me. Here's what you wanted.
Wow. I can't believe you actually thought I was going to do that. You're a sick fuck, you know that? Thanks for the sub though, I guess. Anyway, those are the structural components of short-form content. There are also binding components that you need to thread into the structural components to reinforce them and hold on to attention. If hook, premise, payoff, and CTA are the bricks of content, the binding components are the mortar that holds them together. Many of these binding components are kind of intangible, and most of them are more intuitive than formulaic. The only one that I'm going to talk about for now is pace. Pacing is the invisible force that keeps people watching. It's not just about speed, it's about rhythm. Leave very few gaps where there's no speaking or audio. Mix up your shots. Change your angles every 2 or 3 seconds. Use pattern interrupts, sudden zooms, unexpected transitions, audio stings. Watch any viral short with the sound off, and you'll see constant visual change. But pacing isn't just visual, it's emotional too. Building tension, creating releases, setting up problems, delivering solutions. It's a roller coaster, not a flat road. If you're a fan of comedy, you also will intuitively understand the importance of timing. Content is the same way. Over time, you're going to develop a sense of rhythm and an understanding of when something feels just a bit off or when something hits just right and you're like, fuck, that was so funny. Always, always, always remember, your primary goal with every piece of content is just to keep people watching, 1 second at a time. Every second of incremental average watch time you get is another bump in views. And again, if you can keep people around for 15 to 20 seconds on short-form platforms consistently, you are a god-tier content creator that is going to get millions of views and followers. This requires skill and it requires tons of volume. Remember, the idea is to put out as many pieces of content as you possibly can at that 7 out of 10 quality threshold. The last thing I'll leave you with is a quick checklist on what 7 out of 10 actually means. This is not necessarily a measure of quality because quality is subjective. You don't actually know what your audience is going to respond to. So no matter how much effort you put into a piece of content, that's not necessarily an indicator of its quality or how it's going to perform. So again, if you answer any of these no, figure out where you went wrong and try again. 1, is the hook solid? Would a new viewer stop scrolling in that first second? 2, does the video communicate the model's vibe, brand, and aesthetics without any prior knowledge? 3, can someone watch the video for 10 or more seconds without getting bored or confused? 4, is there at least one moment that makes someone feel a small jolt to trigger that dopamine? A laugh, surprise, curiosity, or in our case, arousal. And 5, is the content visually appealing with clear audio and intentional editing? If the answer is yes to all 5, you have hit minimum viable quality, and if you're hitting all 5 consistently, you are guaranteed to have a piece of content that goes viral. There is one missing element here, which is workflow, and that's how you build a simple, repeatable process that allows you to brainstorm, batch, edit, and post that grows with your team and enables you to stay consistent and scale without burning out. Luckily for you, I'm giving away Milky's entire production workflow for free to everyone who joins our email list. I spent years studying large-scale independent production companies to find the best tools and methods available, but you get it for free. Simply click the link in the description, input your email, and I will send you our entire playbook as a PDF, plus a video walkthrough on how to use it. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any future videos, and hit that like button while you're at it. If you got value out of this video, please be sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss future ones, and hit that like button while you're at it. It helps the channel grow, and it lets me know if I'm being useful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.